If you were a network manager with around 2,000 busy people relying on your unbroken service, this would be your vision of hell. But that was the prospect faced by John Southard and Joe Campagno in July 2005. And here they tell their tale of networking hell and how carrier Ethernet technology and Time Warner Cable saved them from it. New York Law School, one of the oldest independent law schools in the United States, was founded in 1891 by the faculty, students and alumni of Columbia College Law School, led by their founding dean, Theodore Dwight, a major figure in the history of legal education. New York Law School is based in Lower Manhattan, in the midst of the country's largest concentration of government agencies, courts, law firms, banks, corporate headquarters and securities exchanges. It's made immersion in the legal life of a great city an essential part of the school's identity and curriculum. Of course, John Southard knew all about that when he first visited his new workplace in 2005, and the environment was part of the excitement of his assignment. He also recognized that this was a major challenge, and that's because, in terms of technology development, New York Law School is the leading such school in the country, and the work of students and this cutting-edge faculty needed IT support, but without interruption of service.
It was the summer of 2005, and I got a call from my employer to come to New York Law School to prepare to take over a site because the on-site CIO was about to go on a maternity leave. And I came, and the first meeting I went to was about something called a new building project. I didn't know what the new building project was. And essentially what it was is the law school was going to build in an empty parking lot their new academic center of the future, while at the same time they were selling and demolishing their library and moving their library to a temporary space.
John found himself staring at chaos, a pit in the ground and a building site hemmed in by busy streets.
The only connectivity I could see between across the street, the law school's campus, and the temporary space was a little wireless Wi-Fi shot, and it was supporting some channelized T1s and some data in support of a very small office. And so I immediately said to myself, well, somewhere they must have some grand infrastructure plan, and this is going to be a lot of fun because I love infrastructure. Well, to my, I guess to my surprise, they didn't have any infrastructure plan.
The distance between the two buildings doesn't look far, but arranging links between them certainly wasn't simple. There's a bureaucratic tangle involved in arranging street and right-of-way surveys before digging trenches and laying cable in one of the world's most hectic city. This, remember, is New York, and just 8 blocks from the 9/11 Ground Zero, and John was to discover that a critical NYC security requirement post 9/11 means that there's no access either to manholes or under the street from Thanksgiving in November until well after the new year. Since the law school had to reopen on the 10th of January 2006, it was highly unlikely that a permanent bandwidth solution could be found, let alone executed, in such a short period of time. So it soon became clear that planning for the project had not allowed enough bandwidth or connectivity services for all the moves, turn-ups, turn-downs and changes that would be required. Not one to give up easily, John saw one ray of hope on the horizon.
I just knew that I had to wait about 2 weeks because I knew my colleague Joe Campagno was going to be joining me on this site. And so as we started to look into it, we realized that we better make some phone calls.
For most of August and September, John and Joe spoke to anyone who would listen. Cable companies, phone companies, power companies, and pretty much anyone claiming to be able to cobble something together.
They realized that we were asking them to build out a layer 2, layer 3 Metro Ethernet handoff between buildings while construction was underway, while floors were being reconfigured, and to a dormitory that they may or may not have access to.
You should have seen the look on their faces when we spelled out the scope of the project and the time frame. Most of them said, "You want what? By when? And for how much?" Most of them just said, "Good luck."
And then Time Warner's reaction was very different. Time Warner thought about it and went back, and the next day we got a phone call. And the phone call was, we thought about it, we have a design, we can do this. The only problem is we have a compressed time frame to pull it off. So we had maybe roughly 45 to 60 days to pull this off. And the design that they had was a very solid design. And believe it or not, the pricing to do this was well below what I would have ever have anticipated, given what they were building for us. So multiple teams went to work. Their survey and engineering team went to work. Their legal people went to work. Their design people went to work. And their salespeople went to work.
By mid-October, they'd finished their analysis, presented a design, articulated a work and price scope, and made it clear that they needed to start yesterday. Not even they could be absolutely certain they could finish in time as they inched closer to the street lockdown moratorium. Meanwhile, the school's academic staff had their own set of challenges.
We moved the library last year in two separate moves, and it was a pretty difficult time for everybody. We had to move all the furniture, all the students, the study space, let alone the books.
The law school cooperated fully, and before long, street cuts were made, bringing fibre from a manhole on West Broadway and Worth to the doors of the law school campus. Likewise, Time Warner Cable's fibre was drawn to the 40 Worth Street location, and an entry connection was made there. All the street work was accomplished before Thanksgiving, and from Thanksgiving until Christmas, Joe and Time Warner Cable installed the electronics, network gear and cross-connects, and light tested the live circuit until the new Metro Ethernet link went live on the 9th of January. It was just a day before law school staff returned from holiday.
I think what people didn't realize was that we also changed all of the communications infrastructure, because during this moving process, everything seemed to work. So it wasn't a difficult time as far as that was concerned. Thank goodness, because everything else was a great deal of upheaval for us.
I don't think when we moved the library over here on January 10th and classes began, anyone knew what we did. What they knew is that all of the wireless access points worked, all of the data and phone jacks worked, and all of a sudden we had this blazing internet speed because we had this new ISP pipe out to 60 Hudson Street, which is right up the street.
Aside from a managed fibre network loop and a Metro Ethernet WAN connection, Time Warner Cable also provided a redundant ISP bandwidth circuit that vastly expanded the law school's internet service pipe. The incremental cost for that ISP bandwidth was dramatically lower than anything seen before.
Before they came, we were paying in upwards of over $1,000 per megabit per second for our ISP bandwidth, and we were paying below $50 per megabit per second based on what they were able to do for us with their link and into the 60 Hudson Street POP.
A 100 megabit per second virtual circuit was established off Time Warner Cable's fibre ring to the law school's hall of residence some 2.5 kilometres away. That circuit provides dorm students with access to the main campus as if they were physically there. Since then, Time Warner Cable has been involved in many of the juggling decisions associated with the new building. As the main cable TV feed for that entire block comes from the West Broadway manhole, Time Warner Cable is working in partnership with the law school to provide cable TV to the new development at 240 Church Street, site of the law school's old Mendick Library. Time Warner Cable is involved in providing fibre feed alternatives to New York Law School's rented space at 41 Worth Street, a building that doesn't permit new cable penetrations and was fed from a cable draped over the law school's old parking lot, which is now a construction zone. Time Warner Cable will shortly be involved in rerouting that Metro Ethernet MAN-WAN fibre to light up a new data centre in the new building that will consolidate and eliminate the multiple temporary MDF and IDFs that are required for the massive multi-phase build-out.
So it worked out fine for us. We were able to have a seamless kind of integration for all of the operations. And it's moving the library is a difficult thing. We close the doors one day and open the doors the next. And all of our computers, databases, our systems, we have very complicated systems, they just all work perfectly.
With the end of digging came peace at last, and an opportunity to explore the full potential that Time Warner Cable's Carry Ethernet solution could provide. Once access is secured, the cable company and the law school will be working on harnessing this bandwidth for advanced communications, collaboration, teaching, learning, and research applications. They plan to install and experiment with IPTV. They plan to use the backbone for advanced audiovisual streaming, telepresence, video teleconferencing, and distance learning applications.
The next challenges are to really leverage what we have. We have such a solid, always-on network that now we can concentrate on applications. And in higher education, it's applications. Our first network was built for access, and by virtue of access, everyone was connected, but we didn't have collaborative tools, social networking. We weren't able to really stitch together learning inside and outside of the classroom. With this kind of infrastructure, we can now dream about applications and adopt applications that we think are going to leverage and change legal education in America. Moving forward is to continue to harness and leverage this infrastructure because it provides us the ability to really ride the future on it. We can build, invent, and adopt applications that we think are going to change education. And now, 2 years later, what we're working on is IPTV applications, more and greater streaming applications, and a lot more collaborative applications, including, as we mentioned earlier, how to now start making those applications work more for the residence hall, which is completely lit up with wireless as well.
Who would have thought that such an effective, transparent and reliable communications network could have come after so much chaos? John and Joe see very clearly the route they must travel in the next few years, but the way is still littered with major upheavals in this 5-year rebuilding project, so who knows what further obstacles lie in their path. But with their experience, sheer determination and the unbeatable flexibility and performance of Carrier Ethernet, we can be confident that New York Law School will be business as usual, or rather, better than ever.
So if you consider a new building rides on a foundation, Time Warner Cable Business Class has built us the technology foundation that's going to allow everything we're building in the future to work on.
We're really looking forward to the next stages of the project. Time Warner has helped us build an incredible network foundation that will allow us to build great applications and provide them for our faculty and students. Applications such as collaborative tools, IPTV, streaming media, and numerous others will be available.
With the new infrastructure we now have, the infrastructure we built with our partner at Time Warner Cable, literally the sky's the limit.